Shereen Vishmaya in San Francisco on this gorgeous spring equinox. The sun is shining and it's really a gorgeous, gorgeous, beautiful day in San Francisco. Which this morning when I woke up, it was pouring rain. So I was like, oh no, it's back. But it was really interesting because it was so literal to the shift that happened today, where we started off with the sun at 29 degrees Pisces, which is where we started the Mercury retrograde, by the way. And that kind of deep, watery, sloggy energy. And then that was the morning where you just didn't want to get out of bed and it was like really super sleepy. And then all of a sudden when the sun shifted into Aries just a few hours ago, it's like boom, suddenly the sun is shining, the fire's back, and there's new life. So I really love how the weather's imitating the astrology, at least in San Francisco. And it's the first day of spring in the Northern Hemisphere, so happy spring. And I don't mean to make it all seem like flowers, roses, and sunshine, even though, of course, that is what I love about spring. But I know it's also been quite a painful ingress for many people because the sun's sitting right on top of Chiron, the ouch, I call it the ouch, don't go there place in the horoscope. And a lot of people have been really feeling some old soul wounds. And certainly they're fired up at this full moon, as the full moon is opposing Chiron, who just recently went into Aries again. So it's a kind of fresh, fiery energy that we're still adjusting to, of realizing we, in our path to go it alone or to individuate, there's certain things we've had to sacrifice to come back to ourselves, and the pain of loss. I think we're still kind of grieving some of the losses. That's what a lot of people have been talking to me about, like what they've sacrificed to be true to themselves and what they've had to give up. And even if it's for the best, it still requires a grieving process. The old life. I keep saying, like, we let go of an old life, an old story, an old narrative. It could just be our attachment to our old pain and places we felt victimized in our life. But obviously we want to let that go. But in the process of letting go, there's always a grieving that has to happen. And then the pain of the birth, of the new birth. Like I said, we've been in a chrysalis, but we're coming out of that now. But there's still this feeling of like, what's on the other side, and what's being birthed, what's the new rebirth energy. And we're just finding out, because this moon is at 0 Aries. I'm sorry, the sun is 0 Aries, and the full moon is 0 Libra, which means we just came out of Virgo. So it was a lot of kind of hermit energy. And with the moon the last few days of like real deep soul searching. Again, that 29 Pisces degree of all that work we've done with, Chiron was just sitting at 29 Pisces, then Mercury retrograde stationed right at 29 Pisces. And this was kind of like the last, I think, of the processing, although we won't clear that 29 Mercury Pisces degree until April 15th. So the story's not completely over yet. Wait until April 15th, tax day, to see really all that you've learned in this time of healing these deep soul wounds. And we'll also get to see kind of part 2 of this full moon when we have full moon in Libra at 29 Libra. So we're on those two kind of anchoring ends of the constellation. So the ingress, like the beginning stage, the baby stage of learning about the Libra lessons. So it's like we're all kind of in this like do-over with our approach to relationships. I think it's important to take a beginner's mind when it comes to relationships right now and not think we know everything, to be very humble, and to start with a lot of curiosity and openness and consideration for the other person and their feelings, and to see what the relationship is mirroring back to us. All of our relationships, all of our close one-to-ones, but especially our most intimate relationships often bring up the deepest soul wounds, where we want to run and hide, and where it will call up everything unlike love. Like the deeper we go into the love will often trigger everything unlike itself that we have to face. And that's often unhealed soul wounds from our past, from our parents, from our family, from betrayals, disappointments. And we want to stop projecting that onto our partnerships, obviously. But as one of my favorite mentors said, in any relationship, when you get into intimacy, there's going to be some kind of regression. Like you can't, if you're going to be in a deeply intimate, emotional relationship with somebody, you can't really avoid going back to some of those earlier wounds and pains, and the person's going to trigger it. So if you have the fantasy of getting into this relationship where there's no fighting and it's all perfect, and that person's never going to trigger you or challenge you or provoke you or bring up any of your stuff, it's just not realistic unless you want to keep it on a really super shallow level. having complete control. That's not really a partnership then. So I think with the Aries Libra dynamic, we're really having to look at and learn where we have to take responsibility and accountability, the Aries side of things, right? We can't like dump our own healing onto the partner. We have to, that's where the independence of Aries comes in. We have to do the work. We have to be willing to address where we need to be more independent and more conscious in ourselves. And then where we need to be more vulnerable with our partners and more able to show up also for perhaps, you know, being more compassionate or empathic for what they're going through, which means we have to be very present. I think that's the real like 0-0 Aries Libra, like it's about presence right now, being really present, really in the moment, rather than bringing that 29 Pisces projection back into the paradigm. This is for all relationships. I'm talking romantic because certainly like with Aries Libra, it's a lot about our kind of marriages, contracts with people that we have like long-term relationships with. But you know, it's interesting because Venus is going to go into her state of exaltation next week, her sign of exaltation, Pisces, on Tuesday, which is very exciting. So I think we're going to get a real, it's like a real grace period coming up with relationships. And, you know, in terms of now, Venus is going to be answering to Jupiter in Sagittarius instead of Saturn in Capricorn. So we had to do a lot of deep, difficult work on our integrity over the last few months with Venus in Capricorn and then Venus in Aquarius answering to Saturn in Capricorn. But now with Venus in Pisces in her state of exaltation answering to Jupiter in Sagittarius, we're being called to really go deeper into unconditional love, empathy, our devotional nature, our spiritual nature. I think it'll be a really inspired time. I'm really looking forward to it. And the energy is going to shift a lot. So if you're feeling that kind of pain of the sun sitting on Chiron and all your old stories and wounds coming up, just let yourself heal and grieve and feel your way through it. Don't repress it, but trust that it's like a flowing oceanic stream at this point, and it's going to lead you into this new fire, this new, I think of like the Ace of Wands tarot card with this new Aries cycle we're about to emerge into. So we're right at the beginning of it, so don't lose hope. And you know, it's just a little bit, I've been telling people, it's like we're just crossing that threshold. We might not have the new rules, the new guidebook, you know, even the new menu of what's on offer. We don't know yet what's to come, but that's kind of exciting. It's kind of terrifying. It's kind of exciting too. And you have a chance to not go back to the old story. Like start with that open mind, that Zen mind, beginner's mind, 0. This is the 5th full moon at 0 degrees. So we're really being asked to like reset, stop the old narratives, like really let's write a new script now. And it's really tempting to go back to the old ways of thinking and doing things, but this is an opportunity to just really get new with yourself. It's the new. And also I was saying, like, I love this Emily Dickinson quote. I sent it in my newsletter, that I always think of this on the Equinox. I love it. She says, dying is a wild night and a new road. And that kind of gives you that charge. It's like, ooh, it feels like that. It's like you kind of go through this dark night of the soul, which is pretty wild, but then it leads to this brand new road that you haven't traveled. So it's totally worth it. It's totally worth the initiation that we're going through right now. So hang in there. And yeah, you can, if you're not already signed up for my newsletter, you can sign up on my website, because I send out a full and new moon newsletter, or if there's something else big going on in between, and that way you can stay also updated on retreats that I do. I still have a little bit of space in my New Orleans retreat, and today is actually the last, if you're watching this on the Equinox, the last 24 hours to get the early bird discount. It's going to expire tomorrow, and I think we still have 2 spots left at the time of this recording. So Caitlin and I would love to have you join us. It's called the Tarot Diaries, and we're going to be really living the tarot in New Orleans. So it's going to be pretty amazing, and we hope you can join us. And I actually have an online tarot class I'm doing with Caitlin as well, because we're really focusing on the tarot. So if you can join us for that, that's going to be on the 27th, and you can participate from anywhere in the world. And if you're not free on the 27th, of course, we're going to record it, and you can get the recording at any point. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll take time to really work on healing your relationship to yourself and to others during this powerful, powerful full moon in Libra, part 1. Okay, thanks so much for watching.